The first time I saw my neighbor through the kitchen window, he was standing completely still in his backyard at 3 a.m. Not moving, not breathing, just standing there like a statue carved from shadows. I told myself it was insomnia, maybe sleepwalking. People do strange things at night. But then I noticed his head was tilted at an angle that made my stomach turn, like he was listening to something I couldn't hear. When I blinked, he was gone. Not walked away. Just gone. The empty yard stared back at me and I felt cold sweat run down my spine. I'm Daniel Cooper, and I moved to Ashford Lane 6 months ago after my divorce. The neighborhood seemed perfect. Quiet streets, friendly faces, affordable rent. My neighbor in Unit 7B, Marcus Webb, seemed normal enough. Mid-40s, polite smile, worked from home like half the country these days. We'd exchanged pleasantries about the weather and trash collection schedules. Nothing memorable, nothing concerning. But that night, standing in my dark kitchen with a glass of water trembling in my hand, I realized I'd never actually seen him during the day. Not once. Every encounter had been during twilight or after dark. Every single one. The next morning, I convinced myself I'd imagined it. Stress does terrible things to the mind, and mine had been through hell with the divorce, the move, the new job. But when I checked my doorbell camera footage from that night, my blood ran cold. At 2:47 a.m., Marcus walked past my door. At 2:51 a.m., he walked past again in the same direction. At 2:55 a.m. again, same direction, same mechanical gait, same blank expression. He walked past my door 17 times in 1 hour, always moving in the same direction, never coming back the other way. It was physically impossible unless he was walking in circles through the building. And the way he moved, it wasn't quite right. Like someone who had studied walking but never quite mastered the rhythm of it. Before we dive into what happened next, I want you to do something for me. Look around your own neighborhood right now. Look at your neighbors. How well do you really know them? Drop a comment below and tell me what city you're watching from. I need to know I'm not alone in this. Because after what I discovered about Marcus Webb, I learned that sometimes the most dangerous things are the ones hiding in plain sight, wearing human faces, living in the apartment next door. So go ahead. Tell me where you're watching from. Let's build a community here, because you're going to want people who believe you when this story is over. And if you haven't subscribed yet, do it now. Hit that subscribe button and turn on notifications, because what I'm about to tell you will change how you see your neighbors forever. This isn't just my story anymore. It could be yours too. Now let me tell you about the day I discovered my neighbor's secret. The day I learned that not every neighbor is human. And the day I realized I might not survive long enough to warn anyone else. It started with the smell, that acrid chemical odor that seeped through the walls like poisonous gas. At first, I thought it was cleaning products or maybe a plumbing issue. I called the building manager, a gruff man named Harold who'd probably seen everything in his 30 years of managing properties. He sniffed around my apartment, checked the vents, examined the pipes. Nothing. Probably coming from outside, he muttered, but I could see the confusion in his eyes. The smell was definitely coming from inside the building. More specifically, it was coming from Marcus's apartment. I began documenting everything. Every strange occurrence, every odd behavior, every inexplicable moment. The footage from my doorbell camera became my obsession. I watched Marcus leave his apartment at exactly 11:47 p.m. every single night. He wore the same gray jacket, carried the same leather messenger bag, and walked with that same unsettling gait. He'd return at 4:23 a.m. precise to the minute. Where did he go? What did he do during those hours? I started losing sleep, staying up to watch through my peephole, trying to catch a glimpse of something, anything that would explain the growing dread in my gut. The other neighbors seemed oblivious. Mrs. Patterson in 7C thought Marcus was such a nice young man. The college kids in 7A had never even met him. The elderly couple in 7D said they'd seen him maybe twice in the 3 years he'd lived there. 3 years. He'd been here for 3 years and almost no one knew him. How was that possible in a building with paper-thin walls and a shared laundry room? It was like he'd mastered the art of being invisible while hiding in plain sight. Then came the night I heard the sounds. Scraping, grinding, a wet, tearing noise that made me think of meat being pulled from bone. It came through the wall we shared, rhythmic and purposeful. I pressed my ear against the cold plaster, my heart hammering so hard I thought it might burst. The sounds continued for hours. At one point, I heard something that might have been words, but in a language that hurt to hear. The syllables were wrong, the pronunciation impossible for human vocal cords. I recorded it on my phone, my hands shaking so badly the audio came out garbled. But when I played it back, even through the distortion, those sounds made my skin crawl. I decided to confront him. Looking back, it was stupid, reckless. But fear and curiosity make dangerous companions, and I'd lost too much sleep to think straight. The next evening, I waited by my door until I heard his lock click. I stepped out just as he emerged, and for the first time, I got a really good look at Marcus Webb in proper lighting. He looked wrong. His skin had a waxy quality, like latex pulled too tight over a frame that didn't quite fit. His eyes, which I'd remembered as brown, were now a pale gray that seemed to reflect light like a cat's. When he smiled at me, his teeth were too white, too perfect, too many. Had there always been that many teeth? The proportions of his face seemed off, like a portrait painted by someone who'd only heard descriptions of humans but never actually seen one. "Daniel," he said, and his voice was all wrong too. It came from somewhere deep in his chest, resonating in frequencies that made my fillings ache. "How are you this evening?" I stammered something about the smell, about being concerned, about wanting to make sure everything was okay. He kept smiling that too wide smile, his head tilted at that impossible angle, watching me with those reflective eyes. "Everything is fine," he said. "Just some experiments. I work in chemistry, nothing to worry about." But the way he said chemistry sounded like he'd never used the word before, like he was testing it in his mouth. "What kind of experiments?" I pressed, though every instinct screamed at me to run. His smile widened further. "Too far. Definitely too far. Biological," he said. Then he turned and walked down the hallway with that mechanical gait, leaving me standing there, trembling, watching him disappear around the corner. But before he vanished from sight, he looked back at me, and I swear his neck rotated a full 180 degrees without his body moving. He held my gaze for 3 seconds that felt like hours. Then he was gone. I ran back to my apartment and locked every lock, wedged a chair under the doorknob and pulled all the curtains shut. That's when I noticed something I'd missed before. Small scratches on my doorframe, thin, precise marks like someone had been measuring the dimensions of my door, or testing how easy it would be to get inside. That night, sleep was impossible. I sat in my living room with every light blazing, phone in one hand and a kitchen knife in the other, listening to the sounds bleeding through the wall, the scraping, the grinding, and now, unmistakably, voices. Multiple voices having a conversation in an apartment where only one person was supposed to live. At 2:34 a.m., my doorbell camera sent an alert. Motion detected. I pulled up the feed with trembling hands, and what I saw made my heart stop. Marcus stood directly in front of my door, facing the camera, not knocking, not moving, just standing there, staring into the lens with those pale gray eyes that seemed to glow in the darkness. I watched for 15 agonizing minutes. He never blinked, never swayed, never took a breath. He just stood there like a statue, like a predator that had perfected the art of patience. Then, at 2:49 a.m., he reached up slowly and covered the camera with his hand. The screen went black. I heard my doorknob rattle. Once, twice, then nothing. Silence so complete it was worse than any sound. I sat there in the darkness of my living room, too terrified to move, wondering if the only thing separating me from whatever Marcus Webb really was consisted of a cheap door and even cheaper locks. Wondering if I'd made a fatal mistake by confronting him. Wondering if anyone would find my body before it was too late. When dawn finally broke through my windows, I checked the camera footage. Marcus was gone, but he'd left something behind that made my blood run cold. Pressed against my door was a single piece of paper, and written in perfect mechanical handwriting were 6 words that still haunt me. "We need to talk about what you've seen." I spent the entire day trying to decide what to do. Call the police and tell them what? That my neighbor stands weird and has too many teeth? That he can turn his head around like an owl? They'd think I was insane. Maybe I was insane. Maybe the divorce had broken something in my brain, and I was seeing monsters where there were none. But then I'd look at that note, at those 2 perfect letters, and I'd know this was real. Whatever Marcus Webb was, he wasn't human, and he knew that I knew. I started researching. Hours of scrolling through forums, conspiracy websites, and archived news articles about strange neighbors and unexplained disappearances. What I found made my hands shake. Over the past 15 years, there had been dozens of reports from cities across the country about people who matched Marcus's description. Different names, different cities, but always the same details. Polite but distant, only seen at night, worked from home, lived alone, and in every case, within months of someone noticing something wrong, that person disappeared. Not just moved away, disappeared. No forwarding address, no family looking for them, no digital footprint. Just gone, like they'd never existed at all. The most chilling case I found was in Portland, Oregon, just 8 months ago. A woman named Sarah Chen had posted desperately in a local community forum about her neighbor in her apartment building. The details made my skin crawl with recognition. Strange chemical smells, strictly nocturnal habits, something fundamentally wrong about his appearance. She'd promised to update the forum after confronting him. That update never came. 3 days later, her apartment was found empty. All her belongings remained untouched. Her car still sat in the parking lot with keys in the ignition. The police investigated but found absolutely nothing. No signs of struggle, no evidence of foul play, no leads whatsoever. Sarah Chen had simply vanished from existence. I found her last post, archived on a true crime website. She'd uploaded a photo of her neighbor standing in the hallway. The image was blurry, but even through the pixelation I could see it. The same gray jacket, the same messenger bag, the same face. It was Marcus Webb. Same exact face, same impossible proportions, same everything. But the post was dated 8 months ago, and I'd confirmed through building records that Marcus had been living in 7B for 3 years. How could he have been in Portland 8 months ago and here for 3 years? Unless there was more than one, or unless he could be in multiple places, or unless time worked differently for whatever he was. My mind couldn't grasp it. The logical part of my brain kept short-circuiting, refusing to process the implications. But the primal part, the ancient part that remembered when humans were prey, that part understood perfectly. I was in danger. Serious, immediate danger. I decided to break into his apartment. I know. Terrible idea. Probably the worst idea I'd ever had. But I needed proof. Something concrete I could take to the authorities. Something that would make them believe me. I waited until I saw him leave at 11:47 p.m., then gave him 15 minutes to get clear of the building. I'd learned basic lockpicking from YouTube videos during my divorce when I'd locked myself out drunk more than once. The skills came back quickly, though my hands were shaking so badly it took 3 tries to manipulate the pins. The door swung open silently, and I stepped into Marcus Webb's apartment. The smell hit me immediately. That chemical odor multiplied by 1,000, mixed with something organic and rotting. I covered my mouth and nose with my shirt and forced myself forward. The layout was identical to mine, but that's where the similarities ended. The living room was empty, completely empty. No furniture, no decorations, no personal items, just bare walls and carpet. But the walls were covered in marks. Thousands of tiny scratches forming patterns that hurt to look at. They seemed to shift and move when I wasn't looking directly at them. Geometric shapes that suggested dimensions my eyes couldn't quite process. The bedroom was a vision from hell itself. The floor was carpeted with what looked like shed skin, thin translucent sheets piled in corners like discarded clothing. In the center of the room stood a wooden chair, and strapped to that chair with rusted metal restraints was something that might have once been human. The body was completely desiccated, mummified by time and whatever process had been done to it. But the face remained frozen in an expression of pure, primal terror. My stomach lurched and I had to fight down the urge to vomit right there. This was why people disappeared. This was what happened to them. But then I noticed something that made everything so much worse. The dead person in the chair was wearing Marcus's gray jacket, and pinned to the jacket was a driver's license. Marcus Webb's driver's license. The real Marcus Webb, the human Marcus Webb, had been dead for 3 years. Whatever was living next door to me, whatever had been walking past my door 17 times a night, was wearing his identity like a costume, and it had been studying me, learning from me, preparing to add me to its collection. I took photos of everything. My phone camera flashed, creating stark shadows in that horrible room. I documented the walls, the skin, the body, every piece of evidence I could find. Then I heard it. Footsteps in the hallway outside. That distinctive mechanical gait I'd come to recognize. But it was only 11:58 p.m. He never came back until 4:23 a.m. He shouldn't be here, unless he knew. Unless he'd known all along that I would break in. Unless this was all part of some plan I couldn't begin to understand. I ran for the kitchen, looking for a back way out. But these apartments only had one exit. I was trapped. The footsteps stopped outside the door. I heard the lock click. The door opened slowly, and Marcus stepped inside. Except it wasn't Marcus anymore. In the privacy of his own space, he'd stopped pretending. The human mask had slipped, revealing what lurked underneath. His proportions were all wrong. Limbs too long, joints bending in directions they shouldn't. His face was still Marcus's face, but it hung loosely now, like a sheet draped over something that didn't quite fit the contours. And his eyes, those pale gray eyes, glowed with a bioluminescent shimmer in the darkness. "I was wondering when you'd come," he said, and his voice no longer even tried to sound human. It was layered, multiple tones speaking in unison, some too high and some too low for human vocal cords. "You're more curious than the others, more persistent. That's good. We can use that. What are you?" I managed to whisper. He smiled, and watching the human face stretch impossibly wide was like watching reality itself break. Behind his lips, rows of teeth spiraled back into his throat in configurations that defied biology. "We are what came before, what will come after, what exists in the spaces between your comprehension. We've always been here, Daniel, walking your streets, living in your buildings, standing beside you in your neighborhoods, watching, learning, becoming, and you never even noticed." I backed toward the window, clutching my phone. "I have evidence. I have photos. I'm going to expose you." He laughed, and it sounded like breaking glass. "Expose us to whom? Your authorities? We are your authorities, your neighbors, your co-workers, your friends. We've been integrating for decades, replacing one human at a time. By the time your species realizes what's happening, it will be far too late." He took a step toward me, and I could see now that his feet didn't quite touch the ground. He was hovering, just slightly, defying physics in a way that made my brain hurt. I did the only thing I could. I ran. I shoved past him, feeling his skin shift and writhe under my hands like liquid latex, and I burst through the door into the hallway. I ran for the stairs, taking them 3 at a time, hearing that mechanical gate behind me, but faster now, no longer pretending to move like a human. I hit the ground floor and sprinted for the main entrance, slamming through the doors into the parking lot. I didn't stop running until I reached my car, fumbling with keys, my whole body shaking with adrenaline and terror. I drove straight to the police station, bursting through the doors at 12:30 a.m., babbling about monsters and murder and alien invasions. The desk sergeant listened patiently, then asked me to calm down and start from the beginning. I showed him the photos, the skin, the body, the scratches on the walls. He looked at them carefully, then looked at me with an expression I couldn't read. "Sir, these photos show an empty room and some marks on walls. That body you're talking about, I don't see any body in these photos." I grabbed the phone from him, pulling up the pictures. He was right. The photos showed Marcus's empty apartment, the walls with their strange patterns, but the chair was empty. The skin was gone. The body had vanished from the images, even though I'd photographed it directly. It was like reality itself was gaslighting me. But I saw it. It was there. The real Marcus Webb, he's dead, and something is wearing his... "Sir, I'm going to need you to calm down. Have you been drinking tonight? Using any substances?" That's when I noticed it. The nameplate on his uniform, the way he stood, the slight tilt of his head, the too perfect smile, and his eyes, pale gray, reflecting the fluorescent lights like a cat's. He was one of them. The police were already infiltrated. How many were there? How long had this been going on? I backed toward the door slowly. "I'm sorry. I made a mistake. I think I just need some sleep." "I think that's a good idea, Mr. Cooper. But first, why don't you come with me to a quiet room where we can talk? I'd like to ask you a few questions about your neighbor, about what you think you saw." I ran again. Out the door, into my car, driving aimlessly through the nighttime streets, too terrified to go home, too panicked to think straight. I ended up in a 24-hour diner on the edge of town, ordering coffee I didn't drink, trying to figure out what to do next. That's when I realized the waitress was watching me, tilting her head, her eyes catching the light wrong, and the cook in the back, and the other late-night patron in the corner booth, all of them, all watching, all tilting their heads at that same impossible angle. How many were there? How long had they been replacing us? And why had Marcus let me see? Why had he revealed himself? Unless that was part of the plan too. Unless they wanted me scared, wanted me running, wanted me isolated. Because who would believe me now? Who could I trust? I pulled out my phone and started uploading the photos to every platform I could think of. Social media, forums, file sharing sites. If I was going to disappear like Sarah Chen and all the others, at least I'd leave a trail. At least someone might see and understand. I posted my story, uploaded the evidence, tagged it with every relevant keyword. Then I sat back and waited for someone, anyone, to respond with belief instead of mockery. The responses started coming in fast, but they weren't what I expected. "Nice creative writing," said one. "Great horror fiction," said another. "Love the practical effects in those photos." They thought it was fake, a story, entertainment. Even with photographic evidence, even with detailed testimony, they couldn't see the truth. Or maybe they didn't want to see it. Maybe accepting the truth was too terrifying, so they chose to believe it was fiction instead. As dawn approached, I made a decision. I couldn't stay here. Ashford Lane was compromised. The police were compromised. Maybe the whole city was compromised. I needed to run, to get as far away as possible, to find somewhere they hadn't infiltrated yet. If such a place even existed. I paid for my coffee with cash and walked out to my car just as the sun was rising. That's when I saw him, Marcus Webb, standing across the street watching me, still wearing his human face, still maintaining the pretense. He raised one hand in a slow wave, and his smile was almost sad, like he was disappointed in me, like I'd failed some test I didn't know I was taking. I got in my car and drove. I'm still driving. It's been 3 days now. I've crossed state lines, stopped in small towns and big cities, uploaded my story from different locations. I don't know if it matters. I don't know if anywhere is safe, because everywhere I go I see them. People with that mechanical gait, eyes that catch the light wrong, heads tilting at impossible angles. They're everywhere, in every city, every town, every neighborhood. How long have they been replacing us? How much of humanity is already gone? I don't know how much time I have left. I don't know when they'll decide I'm too dangerous to leave alive, but I need you to understand something. Check your neighbors. Really look at them. Watch how they move, how they stand, how they interact with the world. Because not every neighbor is human, and by the time you notice something's wrong, it might already be too late. They might already be watching you, studying you, preparing to add you to their collection. If you're watching this from your home right now, go look out your window, check your hallways, see who's standing outside, because after everything I've seen, I can tell you with absolute certainty, they're not all human, and they're getting better at pretending. The question isn't whether they're in your neighborhood. The question is, how many of your neighbors have already been replaced? I'm recording this from somewhere in the Midwest. I won't say exactly where because they're listening. They're always listening. It's been a week since I fled Ashford Lane, and I've learned things, terrible things about what they are and what they want. But I've also learned something that might give us a chance. A small chance, but better than nothing. I've been following the trail of disappearances, mapping out the patterns, trying to understand their methodology, and I've discovered others like me, people who've noticed, people who've survived, people who are fighting back. I found them through an encrypted forum buried in the dark web, survivors from across the country, sharing stories that all sound horrifyingly similar to mine. A man in Texas, whose co-worker's eyes started reflecting light after a 3-week vacation. A woman in Maine whose landlord stopped casting shadows. A teenager in California whose teacher forgot how to blink. All of them had noticed something wrong, and all of them had barely escaped with their lives. We're organizing now, sharing information, trying to figure out how widespread this infiltration really is. What we've learned is nightmare fuel. The creatures, we call them the Hollows because of the way they consume and hollow out human identities, have been on Earth for at least 70 years. They started small, infiltrating rural communities where disappearances would go unnoticed. But over the decades, they've become more ambitious. Major cities are now their hunting grounds. They work slowly, methodically, replacing humans one at a time, taking over their lives, their jobs, their relationships. The real horror is how patient they are. They'll watch a target for months, learning every mannerism, every speech pattern, every habit before making their move. The process of replacement is, I can barely type this. They keep the original human alive for weeks, sometimes months, strapped down somewhere hidden, studying them, testing their reactions, recording their voices, mapping their neural patterns. The victim experiences every moment of their own replacement, watching as something alien learns to wear their identity like a perfectly fitted suit. And when the hollow has learned everything it needs, when it can mimic the human perfectly, the original is disposed of, absorbed, consumed, added to the collective knowledge of whatever hive mind controls these things. But here's what's most terrifying. They don't replace everyone. They're selective. They choose people in positions of minor authority or influence. Police officers, teachers, building managers, social workers, mid-level government employees, people who interact with the public regularly but aren't famous enough to attract scrutiny, people who can help the infiltration continue by dismissing reports, covering up evidence, gaslighting witnesses. That sergeant at the police station? He probably replaced the real officer months or years ago. How many of his colleagues has he helped them take? How many missing persons reports has he buried? I've been camping in my car, moving every day, never staying in the same place twice. I've learned to spot them now. It's in the small details. The way they forget to make their chest rise and fall when breathing. The way they react to pain just a fraction of a second too slow, like they have to remember how a human should respond. The way they sometimes forget which way their joints are supposed to bend. Once you know what to look for, you see them everywhere. And the truly horrible thing? Sometimes you're not sure. Sometimes you look at a person and you can't tell if they're human or hollow, and that uncertainty is almost worse than knowing. The other survivors have taught me tricks. Iron. The hollows react badly to iron. Not like movie vampires or anything dramatic. They don't burn or recoil. But when they touch it, you can see them glitch. Just for a moment, their human mask slips, and you glimpse what's underneath. One woman in our group, Karen from Oregon, carries iron jewelry everywhere. She shakes hands with everyone she meets, her iron rings pressed against their skin, watching for that telltale flicker of wrongness. But knowing how to identify them and knowing how to stop them are two different things. We've tried going public. Every single time the information is suppressed, removed, debunked. We've tried going to federal authorities. They're infiltrated too, maybe more heavily than local police. We've tried warning people directly. They don't believe us. Why would they? It sounds insane. I sound insane. If someone had told me this story 2 months ago, I would have laughed. I would have thought they needed medication and therapy. Now I know better. Now I know that sanity is a luxury none of us can afford. I've been trying to figure out their end game. Why replace us at all? What do they want? One of the survivors, a former biology professor named Dr. Marcus Chen, yes, that's what he's really called, the irony isn't lost on me, has a theory. He thinks they're terraforming, not the planet, the species. They're slowly replacing humanity, one person at a time, until there's nothing left but hollows wearing human faces. A complete species replacement carried out over generations. By the time the last real human realizes what's happened, there won't be anyone left to fight back. But why? That's what keeps me awake at night. Why go through all this effort? Why this slow, methodical approach? They clearly have capabilities beyond our understanding. They could probably wipe us out in weeks if they wanted to. So why the charade? Why pretend to be us? Dr. Chen thinks it's because they need something from us. Our identities, our relationships, our social structures. They're not just taking over our world. They're taking over our civilization, keeping everything running exactly as it was, just with them pulling the strings instead of us. A perfect crime where no one even realizes a crime has occurred. I haven't slept properly in days. Every time I close my eyes, I see Marcus Webb's face stretching into that impossible smile. I hear that layered voice telling me they've always been here, that they're everywhere, that it's already too late. Maybe he's right. Maybe we're already outnumbered. Maybe this fight is lost before it's even begun. But I can't accept that. I won't. Because if I give up, if I stop fighting, then what was the point of any of this? What was the point of Sarah Chen's desperate forum post? Of the real Marcus Webb's last terrified moments? Of every person who noticed something wrong and tried to warn others? Yesterday, I met up with 3 other survivors at a rest stop in Nebraska. We sat in Karen's RV, sharing our research, comparing notes, trying to find patterns in the hollow's behavior that might give us an edge. That's when David, a former software engineer from Seattle, showed us something that changed everything. He'd been analyzing the patterns in those scratches I'd photographed in Marcus's apartment, the geometric shapes that hurt to look at. He'd run them through pattern recognition software, and what he found was both fascinating and horrifying. The scratches are a form of communication, Not language exactly, but more like code, machine code, binary translated into physical marks. And the message, once decoded, was simple and absolutely terrifying. Neural mapping 97% complete. Collective integration proceeding as planned. Estimated timeline to majority replacement, 47 months. 47 months. Less than 4 years. In less than 4 years, they'll have replaced enough of humanity to achieve what Dr. A. Chen called the tipping point, the moment when they control enough infrastructure, enough institutions, enough positions of power that resistance becomes impossible, the moment when humanity loses without ever realizing there was a war. But David found something else in those patterns. Coordinates, locations marked across the country, possibly the world. We're not sure what they signify. Maybe hubs, maybe gathering points, maybe places where the hollows are manufacturing more of themselves, if that's even how they reproduce. But it's something. It's a target. It's a place to start fighting back instead of just running and hiding. The group is split on what to do next. Some want to investigate these coordinates to gather more evidence, to find proof so overwhelming that it can't be ignored or suppressed. Others want to go completely underground, to form hidden communities of confirmed humans, to ride out the infiltration and hope some remnant of humanity survives. And a few, like me, want to fight, to find the source of these things and burn it to the ground, even if it means we don't survive. I don't know what the right answer is. I don't know if there is a right answer, but I know I can't keep running forever. Eventually, I'll run out of road, out of money, out of places to hide. And when that happens, I want to go down swinging. I want to hurt them, to show them that humanity isn't going down without a fight, even if we're fighting blind and outnumbered. Tonight, we're heading to the first set of coordinates. It's an abandoned industrial complex outside of Omaha. David's pattern analysis suggests it's some kind of central processing location, whatever that means. We don't have weapons. Not really. Karen has her iron rings. David has a crowbar. I have a hunting knife I bought at a gas station and the absolute certainty that I have nothing left to lose. We're probably going to die. But maybe, just maybe, we'll find something that can help the others. Some weakness, some vulnerability, some way to fight back that doesn't end with humanity whimpering into extinction. I'm uploading this before we go in. If you're reading this, it means I'm either dead or I've survived long enough to post it. Either way, remember what I said. Check your neighbors. Watch for the signs, the mechanical gate, the reflected eyes, the impossible angles. They're among us now. They're learning. They're replacing us. And the clock is ticking. 47 months until it's too late. 47 months until the last real human looks around and realizes they're completely alone in a world of masks. If you see the signs, run. If you can't run, fight. If you can't fight, document everything and make sure someone knows. Because the only way they win is if we let them take us silently, one at a time, alone in the dark. But if we shine a light, if we make noise, if we refuse to go quietly, maybe we have a chance. I don't know what we're going to find at those coordinates, but I promise you this. Whatever happens next, I'll find a way to tell you. One way or another, you'll know what we discovered. You'll know if there's hope or if it's already too late. Stay vigilant. Trust no one. And whatever you do, pay attention to your neighbors. Because the monster isn't under your bed or in your closet. It's in the apartment next door, wearing a friendly smile asking to borrow sugar. And it's hungry. The industrial complex was worse than anything I'd imagined. David's coordinates led us to a sprawling facility that had supposedly been abandoned for 15 years. But when we arrived in the dead of night, cutting through a rusted fence, we could see lights inside, hear the hum of generators, feel the vibration of machinery through the concrete beneath our feet. This place wasn't abandoned. It was operational, and it was hidden in plain sight, camouflaged by decay and neglect, protected by the assumption that no one would look twice at another forgotten piece of America's Rust Belt. We split up to cover more ground. Stupid horror movie mistake, I know, but we didn't have time for a methodical sweep. Karen went west, David went east, and I took the central building, the one where the sounds were loudest. The door was unlocked. That should have been our first warning. They weren't worried about intruders because anyone who got this far was already meant to be found, already part of the plan. Inside, the facility was pristine. All the external decay was camouflage. The interior looked like a high-tech laboratory straight out of a science fiction film. Gleaming metal surfaces. Banks of computers displaying data I couldn't begin to understand. And in the center of the main room, rows upon rows of transparent chambers, each one containing people, dozens of them, maybe hundreds, all suspended in some kind of viscous fluid, all connected to machines by countless tubes and wires, all of them alive but unconscious, all of them being studied, mapped, replicated. I recognized some of the faces from missing persons posters I'd seen online. That college student from Ohio who vanished from her dorm room, the accountant from Florida who never came home from work, the retired teacher from Maine who went for a walk and never returned. They were all here, being kept alive, being harvested for data, their identities,